As you are listening to this, I am on the internet. I am at the discoverthenetworks.org, and I am going to read to you a synopsis about Wallace Fard Muhammad, and then I will read another synopsis about Elijah Muhammad or Elijah Poole, and then I will read another synopsis about Louis Farrakhan, and I will even go to the Nation of Islam website, but that will be in a later audio clip. For right now, just give me about 6 minutes or 7 minutes to bereave about Mr. Fard Muhammad, founder of the first Nation of Islam mosque in the U.S. So I'm not sure if the Nation of Islam exists outside of the U.S. or existed before this outside of the U.S. But that's what that says. Was believed by the NOI to be Allah incarnate. Preached that the white race is both a curse and test for the black master race. This guy. The origins of Wallace Fard Muhammad, the founder of the First Nation of Islam, or NOI, mosque in the United States are somewhat unclear. He was known by at least 5 other names: Wali Farad, Farad Muhammad, F. Muhammad Ali, Wallace Dodd Ford, Wallace Dodd Fard, and Wallace Dodd Ford. This, the year of his birth is disputed, 1877, 1891. I believe that is the time frame he gave people. I think he was anywhere from 1877 to 1891 is when he would probably say he was born. His birthplace is also disputed: Oregon, New Zealand, New York, Mecca, California, West Indies. And his ethnicity: British, Polynesian, Arab, African American. That's what he's claiming. So that's how that goes. Um, the FBI, though, they identified him with his fingerprints as Wally D. Ford. He's from Portland, Oregon, and his common wife said that he was born in New Zealand to Polynesian and English parents. The NOI contends that Wallace Fard Muhammad was Allah himself, incarnate as the savior of the black race, and thus celebrates February 26th, WFM's putative birthday. So that's the birthday that they argue as Savior's Day. This is the NOI, mind you. Now I'm gonna go to their website in a little bit, and I want y'all to understand something, that he's not on their website. Shit's crazy. So he went to Wali Fard Muhammad, or WFM, was in Detroit in 1930. Door-to-door salesman. He was selling what he claimed were African silks to the city's large black population. Now, I want to touch on 2 things right now, y'all. First are the sons of Ham and sons of Sem, okay? Have been here together for a lot longer than people think. Forever. Not like forever, but as long as they've had slaves here, the Negro slave. That was the introduction of Sem to the land, or a large populace of Sem, and Ham had already been here. So he is peddling to the Semitic and Hamitic and Semitic and Hamitic Semitic communities African silks. And these people are under the belief that they're all African, or most of them are. Some of them believe otherwise. Anyhow, his theology, though, had little in common with traditional Islam, virtually ignoring the 5 pillars of faith: acceptance of Allah, the Prophet Muhammad, and the Quran, the observance of Ramadan, charity to the poor, making the Hajj, and daily prayer. It focused instead on a myth of a renegade black scientist named Yaqub, who created the white race 6,000 years earlier as a curse and test for the black master race. According to Fard Muhammad, the black tribe of Shabazz, despite a 66 trillion year head start, hear this, over the upstarts, was overcome by the inferior white race and its enslaving religion, Christianity. Fard Muhammad was able to find listeners, let alone converts, speaks volumes to the target audience, about his target audience, and the tenor of his times. Black separatist movements have become embedded in the intellectual landscape of the 1920s. This stuff ain't new, y'all. Marcus Garvey's Universal Negro Improvement Association advocated black self-reliance and a return to Africa. Once again, all these guys are thinking that they're African. Some of them knowing that they were Hebrew Israelites and that the land of Canaan, or Africa, is their land of inheritance by right. Not that that's where they are from, but that's another story for another time. Timothy Drew's Moorish Temple of Science insisted on the Asiatic Islamic origin of the black race and had fostered esoteric doctrines of black supremacy and blacks who migrated north to find employment in factories and on railroads and to escape the South's repressive Jim Crow laws. And the re-emergent KKK found themselves deprived of deep cultural and spiritual root from the churches and homes. You get this? So this is what's happening. People aren't with the church no more, and anything sounds good. So they're like, fuck it. Right, and anything to put you above being anything than a lowly, you ain't nothing nigger. Consequently, by 1930, as the Great Depression began to exact a toll on workers of all classes, some found hope, and then Wally Far's Muhammad's racist cant. By 1934, Detroit had a temple of 8,000 members. Among his most important converts was Elijah Poole, an alcoholic grade school dropout who would eventually become Elijah Muhammad. Wali Fard Muhammad was later sent the latter to Chicago to establish a second NOI temple. Y'all ain't hearing it. Some claim that Elijah Muhammad was entirely responsible for the identification of Wali Fard Muhammad with Allah, an identification employed to strengthen Elijah Muhammad's own position in NOI as apostle designate and successor to divinity incarnate. In Detroit, Wali Fard Muhammad's limited credibility with city authorities was severely tested by several run-ins with the law. In 1932, an NOI member confessed to murdering a man in a voodoo-type ritual, allegedly sponsored by NOI. Wali Fard Muhammad himself was arrested at least 3 times and finally left Michigan for Chicago. When he was arrested again in 1933, he disappeared permanently after that, although his common law wife claimed that he had visited her in Portland before migrating to New Zealand. Just needed y'all to hear that about Mr. Fard Muhammad. I won't expound any further. Just look at his pictures, look at what he looks like. Got stuff about Farrakhan, got stuff about Elijah Poole. Very little about my man Malcolm X. It's real sad, y'all. Elijah Poole. I am going to read his entire synopsis to you. So, the 3 little things they give you on him. Former leader of the NOI. During World War II, encouraged blacks to support the Japanese against the U.S. Are you hearing this? And he said, quote, the whole Caucasian race is a race of devils. I don't disagree with that. The evil and murderous race. I don't disagree with that either. Elijah Muhammad, who headed the NOI, for more than 40 years was born Elijah Poole in Sandersville, Georgia. This is the same Elijah Poole that was an alcoholic man. You understand me? Grade school dropout. I want to get into that. In Sandersville, Georgia, in October 1897, so the day is not clear. One of 13 children, he had only the benefit of a 3rd grade education before he was forced to help support his large family by sharecropping. Poole left home at age 16 and worked various odd jobs in Macon, Georgia, before relocating to Detroit, Michigan in 1923. He was one of many Southern blacks who migrated during and after World War I, seeking work in the North's growing industrial cities. Poole secured a job in Detroit's automotive assembly line, but due to the Great Depression and his own alcoholic addiction, he was unemployed by 1930. Around that time, he was the first exposed to the teachings of NOI founder Wallace Fard Muhammad. Are you guys starting to hear this? Hear how this shit worked out? This is crazy. Who exhorted blacks to return to Islam, which he and NOI characterized as the religion of their ancestors. According to NOI lore, Poole recognized Wali Fard Muhammad as Allah. After hearing him speak, the elder man recruited Poole to be one of his ministers. Notice this. Wali Fard Muhammad never denied not being Allah. Do you get me? Not one time does this, none of these articles have I read ever said that this man denied that. That would be something that would they made clear. That would have been distinguished. You get me? And I want y'all to also know something. Uh, Allah is not a him. There are things that allude to Allah having a womb. I have to find the quotes and give them to you. One moment though. Let's get back to this. According, no, excuse me, Wali Fard Muhammad eventually advanced Poole to the rank of Supreme Minister and changed his name again to Elijah Muhammad. Oh, here we go. You getting this right now? Because he built him up. So yeah, boom, now he's the guy. Elijah Muhammad studied Wali Fard Muhammad before moving to Chicago in 1932 to establish an NOI temple in the city, mastering the WFM's esoteric and racist theology, which held blacks were the master race and whites were an evil upstart creation of a renegade black scientist named Yaqub. This is crazy. In 1934, Elijah Muhammad established a newspaper called the Final Call to Islam, which was precursor to today's Final Call. When the WFM mysteriously disappeared in 1930, when Wali Fard Muhammad mysteriously disappeared in 1934, NOI admits charges and countercharges of foul play, experienced its first schism. One faction led by Abdul Muhammad used the name of the Temple of Islam. Elijah Muhammad, while established a new NOI headquarters in Chicago. Eventually, Abdul group would be reabsorbed by NOI. In 1935, Elijah Muhammad In 1935, Elijah Muhammad moved to Washington, D.C., ostensibly to begin formalizing himself with the 104 books on Islam that Wali Fard Muhammad had instructed him to study. As a practical matter, the move to D.C. limited Muhammad's vulnerability to his NOI opponents. You get it? Do you understand? He got out of there so that way he couldn't get beat down. Elijah Muhammad became NOI's first national voice, using radio to broadcast his black supremacist chant and writing a newspaper column, Mr. Muhammad Speaks. He encouraged blacks to become conscious resistors in World War II and was himself arrested and incarcerated for draft dodging in 1942. In his own defense, he argued that both he was too old for draft, being then 45, and also that a black man, he had no business fighting for the United States. Once again, I don't disagree with what he's saying. You know what I'm saying? There's a whole lot of white people who had money who draft dodged, who were able to fight. But get what I'm saying though. You're not one of us, bro. You're not Sim, bro. But they put Ham and Sim together. So therefore, what Ham does, Sim did, and vice versa. When the call to register for the draft was made for all males 18 to 44, I refused, not evaded, on the grounds that I first was a Muslim and would not take part in war, especially not on the side with the infidels. In fact, Elijah Muhammad encouraged blacks to support the Japanese against the U.S. He also established the NOI's paramilitary wing, the Fruit of Islam, FOI, and instituted the FOI dress code of black suits and white shirts. Here it is. Elijah Muhammad was released from prison after World War II and resumed his promotion of NOI. He made two significant recruits during this period. A small-time convict named Malcolm Little, later known as Malcolm X, and his self-proclaimed successor, one-time long song and dance man, Louis Walcott, now Louis Farrakhan. Are you hearing this? Stuff is important. In 1965, Elijah Muhammad published a 300-page book, Message to the Black Man in America, based on the aforementioned Wali Fard Muhammad doctrines. In his screed, Muhammad explained that Allah originally created the black race before all others, followed subsequently by the brown, red, and yellow races. The white race, he said, had come into existence only by efforts of a renegade scientist named Yaqub, who allegedly created white people around 4000 BC. That's not how the story goes, though. If y'all actually look into how they've manipulated just that story, that's not how they say it went down. You understand me? Do you understand me? See, if you watch the little stories, they'll try to tell you that Yaqub created out of the black race, the red people, and then the yellow people, and then the white people. But anyway, I ain't even gonna get into all that. According to Muhammad, Yaqub extracted the brown from the black, and then the grafted brown, and then turned red, and then blase blase, blase blase. Okay. During his tenure as NOI leader, Muhammad was implicated in a web of scandal. He had at least 6 mistresses, and his organization was the subject of probes regarding financial impropriety from its very inception. Moreover, the brutal murders of many of NOI's black opponents, including Malcolm X and the family of Hamas Abdul Khalis, the leader of the rival Hanafi Muslims, was penetrated by Elijah Muhammad's followers, if not specifically at his direction, at least with his tacit approval. You get what I'm saying, yo? He died in 1975. Thank God. Demons in the flesh, people. I don't have anything to say about Louis Farrakhan. He was born in 1933. I forget the month and the day. I don't even care. I just want you guys to hear this shit. July 15, 2015. Sermon at Mount Zion Baptist Church in Miami. Farrakhan issued what is, in essence, a call for black people to murder whites who allegedly oppressed and terrorized them. I am looking for 10,000 in the midst of a million. 10,000 fearless men who say death is sweeter than continued life under tyranny. Death is sweeter than continuing to live and bury our children while white folks give our killers hamburgers. Death is sweeter than watching us slaughter each other to the joy of 400-year-old enemy. Death is sweeter. The Quran teaches us persecution is worse than slaughter. Then it says retaliation is prescribed in the matters of the slain. Retaliation is prescription from God to claim the breast of those whose children have been slain. So if the federal government won't intercede in our affairs, then we must rise up and kill those who kill us, stalk them and kill them, and let them feel the pain of death that we are feeling. This is what this man said, people. This is what he says. Do you understand that Louis Farrakhan is the son of Ham and the son of Japhet and not one of Sem? And he had a white daddy. That's why he's the son of Japhet. His mom was Hamitic from the islands, not Semitic from the islands. Farrakhan is not your people. That's why he had Malcolm X killed people. He was in on that. He spoke the words that got him killed. Listen to the other 2 parts. I hope you did.